How do you value Bitcoin? I've done long videos with a lot of detailed explanations about how you value Bitcoin, but let's talk about a really simple way. How many people use it and how much do they use it? So let's assume you could invest in the internet at the beginning of the internet. What would the value of something be if you could invest in the internet itself instead of just companies that use the internet? The answer would be, well, how many people use the internet and how much do they use the internet? Right now, very few people use Bitcoin, maybe 5% of the population of the world, and as a percentage of their assets, as a percentage of what they use as money, Bitcoin represents a very small amount for most people that use it. So this is the equivalent in 1995 of asking the whole world, hey, how much do you use the internet? And only 5% of the people use the internet at all. And then you ask them how much they use it, and it's like 5 or 10 minutes a day. Well, if you could invest in the internet and realize that, wait, over time, way more than 5% of the world's going to use the internet, and they're going to use it way more than 5 or 10 minutes a day, that is the equivalent of where we are with Bitcoin. The average person owns 0 Bitcoin. 95% of the world owns 0 Bitcoin. The remainder that own Bitcoin, that 5%, it represents, for most of them, a very small percentage of their assets. So one way of valuing Bitcoin is how many people use it and to what degree do they use it as compared to other forms of money. And again, by all measures, whether the complex and detailed measures that I've talked about in previous videos, or by just the broad measure of what percent of the world owns Bitcoin and what percent of all the money they use does Bitcoin represent, by all measures, no matter how you measure it, the total usage of Bitcoin and the total percent of the usage is just very, very small. It's just, again, it's like the very early days of the internet where almost nobody was using the internet, and the people who were using the internet were using it a very small percentage of their time. If you could invest in the internet back then, like you actually can with Bitcoin, in the case of the internet, there's no way to invest in the TCP/IP protocol that runs the internet. It's just a free protocol. But Bitcoin is an actual money you can invest in. And as the usage goes from a very small number of people using it relatively little to a huge number of people using it all the time, including like me as their primary money, you end up in a world where Bitcoin is radically more valuable than it is today.